This is the Tree of Life, Season 2, Chapter 2. In this episode, we will be talking about the role of parental relationships and partner relationships in displacement of intention and integrating that discussion with emission as a form of social reinforcement. To start out, in Season 1, Chapter 5, we explained how the telescopic effect ensures parallel reinforcement for linearly related individuals generating archetypal consensuality. This effect means that it is ultimately about the feeling which is expressed through an experience channel pursuant to a dialogue, attaining reinforcement, than it is about the specific object of consciousness. The example given was of two linearly related individuals, where the local actor's object is a malfunctioning vehicle and the global actor's object is a corporation he owns which is losing money. The idea was that as both actors' actions in relation to those analogous objects must be conserved, if one of them experiences a dialogue which relates to that object in a particular way, the other must also experience a dialogue in relation to the analogous object in an analogous way. It was indicated that this preserves some degree of epigenetic machinery corresponding to the expression of the underlying impulse, and maintains the archetypal consensuality of the lineal line. Now, in the last two episodes, we talked about spatial non-consensuality and archetypal consensuality generating telegony. The idea was that a spatial non-consensual actor is more plastic epigenetically and encodes new epigenetic environmental information at a faster rate in new or changing environments. Thus, spatial non-consensual actors, if matrilineal, pass on that updated epigenetic information to offspring directly, but require an archetypal consensual actor to convert that territoriality into an intellectual or archetypal assignment. Likewise, patrilineal spatial non-consensual actors update the matrilineal line with newer epigenetic machinery from new or changing environments, which the archetypal consensual matrilineal line can pass on to their offspring through archetypal assignments. In any event, the plasticity of a spatial non-consensual actor arises out of their exculpation from the telescopic effect, which is primarily an archetypal consensual phenomenon. Which is to say that they are more plastic, because their interactions with their objects of consciousness are not tied to parallel analogous interactions amongst their lateral alters. If we return to the example of Season 1, Chapter 5, imagine if the epigenetic profiles of the local and global actor were not tied together. Thus, there would be no parallel decision-making between them with regards to analogous objects of consciousness. Individuals in a spatial non-consensual state are thus more responsive to environmental changes with respect to their epigenetic profile, because they are not tied to a network of lineal lateral alters. In this episode, incorporating the above, what we can see is that within a stable family unit, a closed social system, the pairing of an archetypal consensual and spatial non-consensual actor ensures a bottleneck effect upon the projected intentionality of each partner. That is to say, that collisions between the partners still generate displacement of projected intention, and thus emission events, corresponding to 9 impulses, producing 9 dialogues of expression. But it is only after these collisions, generally, though not always, that they then act out those impulses through experience channels. In other words, partner relationships mediate the projected intention of an actor, and produce a fine-tuning of the narratives to which each individual is exposed. The result is the reinforcement of 9 dialogues, just the same, though the exact character of the corresponding impulses are mediated by a cross-sectional interplay between the impulses of both. Likewise, for children within a family unit, generally all intentionality projected into the outside world is mediated by the caregivers. Which means, this bottleneck effect in relation to partners is more complete. That is to say, that the affirmational narratives, which result from intersections, are more stringently determined by the impulses of the caregiver in a rather top-down fashion. All of this is to say, that archetypal assignments are characterized by a complete enmeshing of all 9 dialogues or 9 impulses within convergent experience channels, further to the reinforcement of a selected set of reams characterized by an archetype, by a caregiver of archetypal consensuality. Likewise, this complete mediation by the caregiver is what enables that caregiver to pass on epigenetic information acquired about the environment from their spatial non-consensual partner through expectation matching. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are the mother of a child who is 9 years old. You notice that she enjoys nature, and specifically insects and animals. You know she is hardworking and shy. You know that she is rather aloof from boys at her age, and a bit of a loner. She prefers to talk about intellectual things and is very imaginative. There are 9 separate impulses in this example. If your encounters with your child were to result in 9 dialogues corresponding to those 9 impulses, it might develop as a 9-fold experience channel converging into a single archetypal role such as biologist or scientist. Thus, when you encounter or collide with your child engaging in these behaviors, you might reinforce these 9 impulses into the role of the scientist or biologist through the 9 dialogues. The point is that individually these impulses are non-aspirational, but they do project separate intentions and thus generate collisions which produce emission of the 9 dialogues. But there is some unity between these impulses corresponding to an occupational intellectual territoriality. So let's say in the mother's family there is a biologist. The moment that archetype attaches through the dialogues, it generates a linking through the telescopic effect of the epigenetic profile corresponding to analogous objects of consciousness. This ensures the parallel acquisition of epigenetic machinery corresponding to expression of those underlying impulses. That's the end of the podcast for today.